Hey, what's up, guys? So, Jahan Dotson has declared for the NFL draft. He will skip the Outback Bowl. And I think it's kind of funny because him, along with Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, all within like an hour of each other, said they're foregoing their bowl games, which I think is kind of funny because you have three first round receivers and then about the same hour announce it. But I don't know if that's a coincidence or not. Probably not. But, well, anyways, so I think this is something that Penn State expected, but in some ways, you got to think about the future. You got to think about the future, and next year, a lot of people will say, okay, well, who's Penn State going to bring back a receiver? You got really no studs coming back, which is in a way true, but you got guys who have the capability of really breaking out, like Parker Washington or Keandre Lambert. I remember when Hamler left after 2019, a lot of people said the same thing. And then Dotson became a star. And I think that's going to happen with possibly Parker Washington. If not him, then somebody else. You could have one of these blue chip freshmen like Caden Saunders or Anthony Ivy or Makai Flowers. One of these receivers they're bringing in. Who knows? Malik Maiga also, I think, is an interesting guy. Malik Maiga, that might be how you pronounce it. But anyway, so I think that the receiving room has a ton of options next year, even though they're losing their top target. And I think that Jahan Dotson, he's one of the receivers that I will miss because I feel like he's been such a quality receiver for Penn State the last few years. I mean, in so many ways, he's been consistent. He's been, he rarely drops passes. He he's so smooth when he plays. He's just so fun to watch when he runs and he eludes tackles. And KJ Hamler was fun to watch just mainly because of his speed and his elusiveness. But there's something about Dotson's smoothness. It's almost like watching a dancer on the football field. And I think it's really cool. I think in some ways he's a freak, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do in the NFL. And when you look at the receiving room, though, you have a chance though. You have a chance because you got a bunch of guys to do hopefully just as well as what they did this year. Because I feel like our receivers have been one of the bright spots on this team. I mean, the low spots this year were definitely offensive line, inconsistency at quarterback, and the running backs. Okay, it was not the receivers and even tight ends problem. It wasn't. I mean, the offense was not at fault because of those guys. So hopefully they can maintain that going into next year. They're able to improve the other areas. And so yeah, another thing, I'm not a big fan of players opting out of bowls. The Outback Bowl, not so much. I get as mad about, but when you see Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson opting out of the Rose Bowl, that's when I get a little bit irritated because the Rose Bowl, that's considered the biggest one. I mean, that's the granddaddy of them all. And obviously with the playoff system, that's not a thing anymore. And I kind of like the playoff system. I'd rather have a playoff than no playoff. But at the same time, I want there to be tradition in the sport. And the Rose Bowl has been the bowl for the longest time. And now you got players saying, we don't care, we're not going to play in it. And that's just kind of a little bit disrespectful to the tradition. And I know that's not how they mean it necessarily, but I just, as a college football savant that really cares about the sport and looks back at the history of it, seeing that seeing players opting out of the Rose Bowl kind of irks me. But that's just a little rant. All right, well, thank you guys. We are Penn State.